welcome back to Uncensored. I'm super excited. Today I have the naughty girls, Captain Brenda and first mate / stewardess Tara. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
I love that you guys are wearing pink. I never even like...
It's a big
it's a big hit with everybody.
Yeah.
So for you guys that don't know who these ladies are, they are a all-woman crew of an 85-footer. And yeah, they're paving the way for many of the women within the industry and those who are not part of the industry yet. I think really as a woman, period. It's not just like whatever we do, we're paving the way for the future generations and even the present. So let's talk a little bit about, you guys are all woman crew. So Captain, what's your story? How did you end up being a captain? And then how did you end up deciding, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm going to get an all woman crew. You know, it's like,
I started about 20 years ago. I used to work for a company called Cito. And I was with them for about 5 years. And then a buddy of mine was asking me if I wanted to get into the yachting industry. It was a really hard start for me because it was actually in the early 2000s when I started. Nobody really wanted to hire the female captains. So I got a lot of the jobs that people didn't want to take.
I got you where, no, wait, unstable. I got you where you started and then early 2000s and a lot of people didn't want to hire females, and then you got stuck with shitty jobs. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, the shitty jobs that people didn't want, like on the crappy boats that are like barely floating and the awful clients and owners and stuff that people didn't want, or the last minute jobs that were just hand-me-downs that nobody wanted. So I had to start off doing those particular jobs, and I've had my fair share of rough incidences, and it's got me to where I am now. It didn't last long. It lasted a couple of years until I started to get my own clients. Everything else takes time. You got to start at the bottom and work your way up. So it was a challenging start, but it's gotten me to where I am today, which is a pretty comfortable place.
So my question to you is like, I have talked to a lot of women who are trying to get into the deck department and hopefully become captains one day. But I see that there's so much struggle, and not just with the industry, but within themselves. Mm-hmm. And I also have talked to other people like you that have made it to the other side. And the one thing that I see, there's a difference between the ones who make it, although some of those that do make it are still struggling. But I'm saying successfully make it without the struggle, ones that continue to struggle. And the difference that I saw was that at certain point, they decided this is not about what the industry believes, what society believes about women, is what I believe about myself to make it happen. Because a lot of times I see that a lot of women blame and become victimized within their own self about the yachting industry is so patriarchal and it's super sexism and all this, and just like blaming the industry versus taking responsibility of what's going on with you that's reflecting that. So it's blocking you from actually doing what you want to do. You know what I mean? Yes, of course. I'm not saying all this other shit doesn't happen. Yes, it does happen, but it doesn't just happen to women. It also happens to men, to anybody. Like we can talk about genders and racism and all sorts of shit and preferences of sexual preferences. So I'm wondering, what was it for you? Do you still struggle with that? Or did you get to that point where you were like, you know what? This is not about the industry accepting me. It's about me accepting myself that I can actually achieve this.
It was more something within myself. This is an industry to where you definitely need some confidence within yourself and believe that you can do things like this. Everybody can do it. You just need to believe in yourself that you can. I let that go a while ago to where I just didn't really care what anybody said or thought or whatever, because I wanted to make my own name for myself. And as challenging it has been, it's come with its amazing rewards and perks and things like that. And I'm a tatted up female that, in the industry, it's like very unheard of. And you can pretty much make anything happen as long as you can believe in yourself and push forward.
Exactly. And I love that you're like breaking so many myths of the industry. Oh, if you're tat, forget it. You're never going to get a job. If you're a woman, forget it. You're going to struggle so much. If you're this so I love that you're like representing that, hey, it's fucking possible. You know what I mean?
If you don't like me and how I am,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you don't like me and how I am and how I look, then I probably don't want to work for you anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like these days, back in the day, the yachting industry was with older people. The owners were quite old, very conservative, all that. Conservative, yet they fuck little kids. So I don't know. But these days, there is more of a young kind of mentality and more open-minded, and the owners have tattoos. And it's like the industry has evolved as well,
right,
from the inside out. And that has also opened the opportunity for crew to be more of themselves, be accepted for being themselves. What the fuck is that too? Does it bother you?
We're people too. Yeah. We're people with personalities too.
Not painful to you. But okay, awesome. So now you're a captain successfully, and you have decided to hire a all girls team. And people may think, why the fuck would she do that? Isn't yachting about diversity, right? Because this word has been like thrown out like so much these days about having diversity on board. And I'm just wondering, like, why was it something that just happened, or was it an intentional thing of, no, I just want to work with an all female crew?
It started off, it must have been probably about 6 years ago. And I had always used to run with a male mate and a female stew. And then I wanted to push the boundaries a little bit and do something different and just work with females. A lot of the times people are a little bit more comfortable with them, and they seem to work a little bit better. No offense to males, are a little bit more patient, a little bit more attention to detail kind of thing. And so I wanted to start from there and start doing something and pushing the boundaries a little bit more to where you don't see that. And it was something exciting for me. And I'd like to start doing it a little bit more. I'd like to see it a little bit more, because everything that they're doing they're doing everything that a male mate would do. And it's amazing. And both the girls that I use are fantastic, and I'm super proud of them. And I really wouldn't have it any other way. Just when you get like a nice little group together, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and I guess it also comes down to the person itself, whether it's like male or female. But what is the biggest difference with working with all female crew versus a diverse crew where there's obviously male and female together? What's the biggest difference that you have noticed?
Normally, I've noticed that with working with all females, it's been less like high school kind, because when you start having the male and female dynamic, and I always call it's like going back to high school again, where everybody's like cliquey and picking their little groups, or they're sleeping with each other or making out or whatever. And that tends to cause issues when you're on long trips for long periods of time and you're with these people in tight quarters for so long. And with females, I've noticed, yes, it comes with its fair share of bitching at each other, but we seem to be able to work through it and just get the job done, because at the end of the day, we're all here to do a job and we just want to get it done so we can enjoy ourselves, make some good money, and go home.
And how about you, Tara? Have you had the opportunity to work with other boats where there's obviously male and female, and now you're working with an all-female crew? How's that for you? What's the biggest difference for you?
My experience is definitely less than captain's, but I would say yachties, I feel like we can be big personalities usually. Like we all have a little bit of an ego. You have to have an ego to deal with Mother Nature every day. Like we're going out in the ocean, we're dealing with people. So we all have egos, but I find usually when I'm working with guys, it's like, oh, don't worry, I've got this. Or no, I'll get the lines for her. I'll get the lines for them. Or I've got the heavy lifting, which is fine. I don't always want to lift the heavy things, but sometimes, no, I got this. Watch me move. Like you feel like you have to prove yourself. Whereas like when I'm working with all like our girls, nobody's proving themselves. We're all doing the same amount of work. We're all doing the same amount of heavy lifting. If I'm going to lift something, you're going to lift something. And Captain always expects us to learn exactly what the other person's doing. If I don't know how to do something, I'm going to go learn how to do it. If they don't know, I'm going to teach them. It evens it out a little bit. I feel like with men, there's always a little bit of dicks throwing around. I don't need to prove that mine's bigger, but Sometimes they feel like I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It also comes down to the way we were brought up in society, right? As a woman, this is your place. You just do this. As a man, this is what you do. And it's a subconscious thing of most of us probably were also treated like that in childhood. And then society collectively continues to do so. It's almost without being conscious, we continue to place those roles. And then there comes that place where the women are struggling because they feel like they need to prove themselves more when in reality they really don't. Just fucking do your job, period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think it's that thing of getting out of that mindset, both people, like the male and the female. Okay, what is your duty? And this is the truth though. One of the things, and this is one of the questions that I have for you guys. We are cyclical as women. We menstruate. We go through different phases throughout the month. And that does implicate that for at least 1 or 2 weeks, definitely when you're bleeding, you're going to have a different energy than when you're not bleeding. It's just the reality of being a woman. So I wondered, I actually teach women in the yachting industry how to implement their menstrual cycle in the process of working because it's not going anywhere, motherfuckers. Trying to learn how to deal with it, right? And not going against it, but going with it. And one of the things that I learned is like when your energies are high, low, so then you know what type of duties you're actually going to succeed more. And then when you're not, then delivering that duty to somebody else that can actually perform it better, right? Because it's for the betterness of the whole group, not just ourselves and and that. But I'm just wondering, how does that work for you guys?
For sure. I think being on an all-girl crew is great for that because you can literally like, if the other girl we work with, I remember we were out on a trip and like we had to have breakfast ready by 7 a.m. and we were all exhausted. We had been up since 3 a.m. the night before and she was menstruating and like she was like on day 2 of her period and she woke up. She was like, bro, I cannot get out of bed right now. And I was like, fine, heard. I got you. I'll set the table. If Captain's menstruating, we're all like, oh my God, run. But, no, I'm just kidding. But you can be like, hey, I'm on my period. I'm having really bad cramps. I can't do service right now. I can't make another cocktail and smile right now. Like I just can't do it. I'm done. And then you like tap out and you tap in for somebody else. And it's because they're going to do that for you and you get it. Whereas if you're working with a guide, I feel like there's like a shame around it and
he's going to tell you to fuck up.
Yeah, he's going to tell you to fuck up. Like, oh, it's not that bad. You will just strangle them. And then you don't like want to say anything. And that's the other thing is you don't be like that girl on her period who's emotional. Working with the female crew, it levels it out. It gives you an opportunity to not be judged for something natural happening to your body.
Exactly. And one of the things that I have encountered though, because I haven't had the opportunity to work with an all female crew. I have worked with female captains. I have worked with female mates, all that, but not like an entire crew of female. But one thing I did encounter that when I started to implement menstrual rest on board and just like teaching the girls, because a lot of women don't even know about their own menstrual cycle, right? We used to have crew meetings where I would teach the boys what's happening when we're menstruating. And it was amazing how they would all be like, oh, and having questions. And totally. It's amazing how you realize, okay, it's not that they don't care. It's that they're ignorant to this. So how can they support something they don't understand? And it goes the same with women. Like most of the women don't even understand their own cycle. So it's like, how can they be supportive of other women? Because I have seen women say, oh, this bitch, she's on her cycle, whatever, versus saying, hey, are you okay? How can I help you? Do you need to rest, etc.? And I have to say that with men specifically, Captain, when I tell them and I say something about blood, they're like, yeah, that's fine. Like whatever you want. Like it's good. And then it gives me that opportunity to implement it and then actually educate them because they do need to be educated. And that education then transfers to them they become so much more compassionate towards the girls. They stop the whole bullying thing around you're on your cycle kind of thing. Like they will say you're on your bicycle kind of bullshit, meaning you're going to go crazy now. And yeah, it just really shifted a lot of things. But I think because of the lack of education towards that, obviously that's a big thing. So another thing is, what is the biggest challenge of working with an all woman crew?
I guess for me, and this is just for me and the particular girls that I have been working with recently, I would like the women that I work for, and I've had a lot of issues with this with other male captains where their stews don't know how to do lines and fenders and stuff like that. So I like my crew to be versatile. And with these particular women, the only thing, I guess my only problem would be the fact that they don't know a lot of the mechanical aspects that I do, which they're still learning. So it's still like a learning process. But other than that, they're capable of doing everything that a male could do. We're doing all the heavy lifting. We're doing all the stuff with the dinghies and stuff like that. And they're driving them around and whatnot. My only downfall would be if something happens or whatever, or driving at the helm and whatnot, which they're still learning, would be my only issue.
Okay.
But that's all something
like
that over time
is more like having certain skills. And
right.
Those
certain
skills are something you have to go and invest money in.
Oh, a lot of women unfortunately don't possess those skills just because they don't
have the opportunity.
They don't have the opportunity to do that, or I think that's what they need. And that's where a lot of the males come in because they do have a lot of those skills. But with me running this operation with these women, like we've managed to do just fine. And we've done Bahamas trips and stuff like that. And it's never at the moment been an issue, knock on wood.
But it's basically like a good idea for those women who want to be on deck to not just focus on the deck, investing on just the deck department, but also investing in learning a little bit about engineering.
Yes, of course. It's a good thing. And there's just basics.
Going into a small boat, they'll have to step up in that sense.
Yeah. Especially in the range that we work in, we're not running 10 people or 15 people. It's 2 or 3 of us at most. If something happens, we have an electrical issue and our captain's not here, we need to know where the breakers are to flip. We need to know how to switch over to generators. And we're not necessarily going to know that with most captains. People aren't going to volunteer that information. If you're trying to get into deck work or you're trying to get into captaining, ask or be like, hey, are you going to go turn over from shore to a generator? Can I come watch? Are you going to go fix this breaker? Can I come figure it out? Are we having engine issues? Can I come hold the flashlight so I can see? Because they're not going to offer that opportunity to you. You have to go and take it. You just have to. Female or male. You have to ask.
So I guess it's really important for those captains are listening now. It's also your duty to also teach others.
Correct. Yeah.
Vessels, because on bigger vessels, you have watches. So you have to know because the engineer will usually more than likely teach you how to do that. What happens, blah, blah. Like we're on call, but you're here. So if something happens, you have to do it. So they do teach you certain things. A bigger vessel is a bit different, but the basics are the same thing. So that's your biggest challenge. And for Tara, what's your biggest challenge working with an all-female crew?
I think it just comes back to personalities. And I'm newer to the industry than anybody that I work with. So for me, it can be hard when you're learning and you're starting out and you do know stuff. And then you're working with some women that are strong and opinionated and mouthy. And so you're like getting talked down to and you have to set your ego aside. And I think it can feel a little catty and like it can feel a little emotional, but you have to just take that out of it and step out of it and humble yourself and be willing to learn, even if it's something you already know. So for me, it's definitely hard. It would be easier for me to be mad at a guy and just brush it off for being a dick than it is for me to be like, oh, she's being rude to me or she's being mean to me. I feel like I take it personally when I shouldn't. And that maybe is just like a personal thing, but definitely intense, big personalities, especially same gendered personalities. It feels like a reflection of yourself. It feels like a mirror of yourself. So being able to just step away. It is. Yeah. It is a mirror of yourself. So you see, you have to just be able to step away and be like, okay, you know what? That's not personal. That's not me. This is just the experience you're having today. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing for me.
And I guess like being like when you're with women, we tend to be very quickly more like bonding with each other and like finding trust quite easily versus like with a guy, we may take a little bit of time to find that space. But where with women, if you hit it off, you hit it off quickly.
Right.
Oh yeah, we're sisters. And it's like super, super intense. And then if something happens, oh my God, yeah, my ego is being crushed because but I think, yeah, what you said is really important that it is everything outside of us. It is a mirror of what's happening within us. And Of course, it's not literal. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. But sometimes it's something that the other person's showing you. So you can be like, oh shit, let me step back, see what's here for me. Let me do my inner work. And then that reflection can change. But also I see that a lot of times it comes down to having boundaries. And I see this often in the industry where a lot of people don't know their boundaries because they haven't taken the time to say, what am I a yes for? What am I a no for? What's my limits? What are my desires? And when their boundaries is just this block. Well, that's not a boundary. That's a fucking wall.
Right.
I see this often where people don't understand their boundaries and then people start crossing them. And so it's not that they crossed them. They didn't know it was a boundary. Maybe that's how the person needs to learn what their boundaries are. And yeah, that's just something that came up for me when you were talking about like boundaries, because I see this often on board. And it's crazy because on board we live and work together. We breathe on each other. Holy shit, everything about this person. Sometimes if you could give an advice to women out there who feel that, and not just as a deck department and trying to be a captain, because I also see this, any person, any woman in the industry, they feel like there's some sort of sexism happening on board or within the industry, like as a collective, not just the boat, because a lot of people say, oh, that's just yachting. Like the collective. So racism, that's just yachting. Sexism, that's just yachting. It's like,
yeah, no, that's in like almost every industry.
Exactly. And stop blaming yachting, take responsibility for your shit and fucking follow through if you want to make it to the other side.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not saying I'm not putting down women or anything like that. I'm a woman for God's sake, but I'm a little bit tired of the same victimization that we are putting ourselves in. And it's like, when does it end? It ends when we stop it. Because we're allowing the industry or like the male or whatever, whoever we see as the perpetrator to feed that victimization because we're like in the process. So what's your advice for women that are finding themselves in that position and they're realizing as we're talking, holy shit, like it's time for me to get out of my way, get out of my victim perception and move forward so I can make this happen.
And then we come back to confidence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what pretty much the women need. You need the confidence to be able to do that, to ask questions, to ask for help, to ask, to learn, to want to be more involved. And sometimes you have to put those things aside and have more power for yourself. And again,
so
be confident.
How do you arrive to that place of, I got this shit?
For me, it's like a mental thing. I've had certain issues and things that happened in the past. And sometimes you just have to compartmentalize and put those things aside. And if you see a vision that you want to be successful and you want to do it, then you have to put those things aside in order to move forward.
Do you feel like that whatever issues you had in the past, you saw them as a drive and you were like, okay, this should happen. Not cool, but this is going to even make me more, making you more to want that even more. So you could.
Exactly.
And is
somebody
there
telling you can't do something and
that you did to shift lack of confidence to, I got this?
Just came out the window, talk to yourself.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess I've always had some kind of a confidence booster. It goes back to something from way back when, being a kid and being picked on all the time. And my mindset was more of people are picking on you and doing things and whatnot. I'm like, man, this is what you're doing on your Saturday while I'm out like having a good time and enjoying myself. And I just put that aside and felt sorry for them and just went about my life and moved on. And that's made me a confident person. And
yeah, it's like, I think it's just about changing your mindset. It's very easy to be a victim. It's very easy to be like, oh, somebody's picking on me. That's because I'm not good enough. I'm not getting the job because I don't know how to do this or that. Like, no, like this is a learning opportunity and they're picking on you because they're having a bad day or because they're an asshole or because they just weren't raised right or whatever. But it's about changing the way you think about other people and it's going to change the way you think about yourself. Like it's all a learning opportunity. It's all a chance to ask a question or to let something go or to let somebody else deal with that problem because it's not your issue, and then move on and just do what's right for you. That's the only way you're going to be successful, is you just keep pushing forward for yourself and for that dream that you have pictured yourself, whatever it may be.
So it comes down to choosing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
every day.
A lot of people think there's these big processes you have to make. And yes, of course, there's a lot of things that you can do. But at the end of the day, no matter what that action ends up being, at some point you have to say, I choose me.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna go for it. And that, and I feel like when you make that choice, which is the choice that you made when you were little, and you said, you know what? I feel sorry for these people. I'm gonna have a good day. Like that subconsciously choosing compassion over victimization and being like, you know what? I see where you're at. I may not understand you, but it's cool. I'm gonna do me. And that was like a conscious choice that you made when you were a kid that you were able to also replicate as an adult when this pattern kept showing itself. And then you were like, oh shit, wait, I've been here before. Let me do the same thing. Let me choose myself again. And I think that's
that positive mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it is something.
Yeah. Nothing's ever perfect.
No. And nobody's perfect, and nobody's going to wake up every day and be like, yeah, I got this. But like you said, you have to make that choice to find something good in the day, or to find a reason to feel like you got it, or to find something to learn, but you have to just make that choice consciously. We see so many people in this industry that get burnt out, that are negative, that guys, girls, everything in between, like people that are just like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, so I can't get the nice jobs because this industry is racist. I'm a female, so I can't be a captain.
I'm Puerto Rican.
Well, like we see it all the time, and especially in Miami, like it happens all the time. Yeah. And it's, yes, okay, sure. They're not hiring you because you're Puerto Rican. They're not hiring you because you're female. They're not hiring you because you don't have the experience. But it's your choice to internalize that, or it's your choice to be like, all right, this is not the person I want to work for, or this is not the job I wanted, or I've got better opportunity.
When that kind of stuff happens where you're like constantly, oh, I can't get a job because of this X, Y, Z, whatever it is that you're saying, it's really just an excuse. It's an excuse to continue to be in that poor me mentality versus, you know what? No, get your head out of your ass. Go do what you need to do. Believe that you can get the job, and then you can get it. The same with money. Like I have worked on boats where I make more money than the engineer. Mm-hmm. People are like, how the fuck? I was like, I value myself differently. That's why.
Right. I asked
guess what he believed. Yeah. I get what I believe.
Yeah, exactly. You put your foot down.
Somebody else will. So I think it comes down to that. And it's that choice of I'm choosing me. Nobody else is going to value me except they're only going to reflect how I value myself. So it comes down to how I want to value myself. So yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Is there anything else that, and oh yeah, I did have a question about a whole crew member, you choosing a whole crew of women. I kind of wonder, was it, and I think you already talked about this, where was it a preference or was it sexism? You know, where you were like, you know what, fuck this. I want more women. And I'm just wondering, where was it a preference, like a thing, or was it more like what you said that you were, you know what, let's give it a go. Let's see what comes out of this.
Definitely a preference to start off with, but then I just wanted to see more women in the industry, even for somebody as myself traveling. And when I'm traveling with a male and he's walking down from the fly bridge and everybody greets him as the captain and they're like, it's her up there. And then everyone's what? And we get the same response when we pull up to anywhere and everyone's like, you women are running this boat. And we're like, yeah, like we can do it too. And I wanted to see more of that. When I started off in like the early 2000s, I didn't even know another female captain. And I think in my 20 something like years of doing this, I've probably met 2. And I know there's more out there. Me personally, I haven't met any of them. And I'd like to see that more. I'd like to see more women be dominant in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, I feel like doing something like how you're doing it, it's changing you're not the exception to the rule. It's like making it normal. And
yeah.
I think it doesn't matter. Like when somebody looks at a boat driving in, they don't expect a man. They expect a captain, whatever gender
a captain.
It's like,
whether it's male, female, tattoos, no tattoos.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it will only change by more women stepping up into that platform and saying, this is what I want to do. Period.
Yeah.
Because it's not, there are women pilots, but I guess not many. I'm not sure actually.
There are. And I know there was an airline recently that had an all-female crew. I think it was American.
Yeah, that's actually something we've noticed through our Instagram because I always like hashtag female captain. I look at all the hashtags and I'll be like, captain, look at this like female captain and her or like her crew, like in an airline pilot and stuff like that. Like they are out there, but again, it's not what you expect to see when you get on a plane. It's not what you expect to see when you get on a boat. It's not the norm yet, but they're out there.
They are. I get super excited every time I see one.
I know. I saw one in the I was like looking at the epaulets on this captain or this pilot, and she was like, "That's the pilot." And I was like, "Oh my God, really?" She's like, "That's the female." We were like, "Yes, goodbye." And I'm so excited about it.
I don't know if the Captain Lori Luca, if I'm not mistaken, that's her name. But there's a Facebook group empowering.
Yes.
Post on there.
I think there's like a lot of girls there women that are captain or in this thing. And of course, Jenny from She of the Sea. That's another where, you know, they're going into like diversity and equality and all this. And I think there's another thing called Girls on Deck on Instagram as well that I've seen.
Oh,
kind of like share.
I don't think we follow that one.
Yeah, you should.
I'm not on much social media as she is, so she would probably know more.
All right. I don't have any more questions. I think we talked a lot of different things, and I feel like we have shared a lot of golden nuggets for not just but for the yachting industry. Is there something that you want to share before we wrap it up?
I just really hope to see more women out there being in charge.
Definitely. I want to see more women pulling in their captains, throwing lines, putting out fenders, doing all the heavy lifting. And don't be afraid to ask questions and just do it. Ask us questions. We're always skilled.
Yeah, when in doubt, ask questions for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to see you guys wearing pink. I am. And I'm very happy that you guys are breaking the myths and you're breaking the standards of what yachting is meant to look like or be, because it's not. It's meant to be or look like how we want that to happen, because without crew, there's no yachting, period.
Right. Yeah.
That's the
and
reality.
The crew makes the experience.
Money. If you don't have crew, you don't have a boat.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
by the way, where can they find you on social media if they want to follow you guys?
We're just on Instagram, Naughty Girl Crew. We don't have a Facebook page or anything like that. We're always posting on that, empowering women and captains on call and stuff like that. But yeah, Naughty Girl Crew, you can follow us there on Instagram.
Awesome. And I'll put the link below the video so you can just click and go follow them. Thank you so much, Captain Brenda. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
Tara, I really appreciate the time with you guys. And I had so much fun just bashing around and just talking.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Shit full of wisdom. So, until next time, guys, this is Uncensored. I'm Maria from Yachts for 8. I'll see you later.